The attainment of 23 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria has been applauded as an indication that the Fourth Republic has come to stay. Of course, democracy is a journey and not a destination. And as a journey progresses, it presents turns and twists, and sometimes the road can be smooth or rough. Needless to say that democracy is also a culture of governance that needs to be imbibed and cultivated by a people. Now the yearnings and aspirations of citizens and the government is to see an improvement of our democratic experience in terms of measurable and immeasurable results. What have we achieved so far, and what more can be achieved going forward? Are citizens really getting the dividends of democracy, and what does the future hold? This will form the focus of our discussion on the program, Nigeria Today. I am Lydia Odijochi. Welcome to the program. Joining us via Zoom is the Executive Director, Initiative for Grassroots Advancement, INGRA, Lokoja, Kogi State, Hamza Aliyu. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you for having me.
And happy Democracy Day.
Happy to you too.
Okay, now let me begin with you. 23 years of unbroken democracy. How do you see our evolution and growth?
Well, 23 years is in terms of human evolution, 23 years is a short time, but we could say from our own experience that 23 years has been a work in progress. So we could say that one of the positive aspects of our democratic experiment this long has been that we have been able to get a generation of Nigerians who are beginning to see that democracy is the only form of government that suits us. And democracy is the only form of government that we need as a people and we've accepted as a people. And so the longer we practice this democratic process, the longer the experiment, the more firmly it will be indelled into our memories as Nigerians that democracy is the way to go. And I think we are making progress. 23 years is a short time, but it's still a long time, looking at where we're coming from. So I would say that positively, it has becoming a culture for us that we're beginning to see that this is the form of government that is suitable for us. This is the form of government that gives us the best participation. This is the form of government that allows the largest number of us to take part in that selection of our leaders. And that leadership selection, that participation in that selection is what makes national development unique in terms of that democratic experiment. So I say we've achieved a lot by just by the sheer number of years that we've spent practicing it. Of course, we always argue that whether that experience has been positive or negative, but in just that point that we are beginning to understand that this is how we want to govern, I would say that we should give ourselves kudos for it, and we need to do more.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, a public affairs analyst, Ibrahim Modibo, has just joined us. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program and happy Democracy Day.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you.
Let me ask you this. 23 years of democracy. Are citizens really getting dividends of democracy?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful program on Democracy Day such as this. Democracy presupposes a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The best form of military regime is not equated to the worst form of any democratic rule, in the sense that democracy, it's a government where mass participation of people. And it also offers the latitude to people to make their choices. Unlike the military regime where we have people coming up, the military boss will just come up and start blowing their martial music and it's all over. Whether you like the person or whether he has anything to offer or not, it is none of their business. And you are not even, you're not giving you the opportunity to participate. But in democracy, it is a government of the people. You can vote out any government you don't like, and you can vote in the government of your choice. And therefore, 23 years of democracy, as it is today, I think we have done well, although we are not yet there. For very obvious reasons, fundamentally, if you look at democracy, the concept 23 years ago when it came, you know, there are a lot of ups and downs, and which is normal in a democratic culture. Even America, that has over 200 years of democracy, is not perfect. It's not there. But ours, as a toddling democracy, so to say, we are just starting. And in their drive towards achieving the much needed democratic dividends, I think the government has tried to do well, right from the inception of this current democracy, 1999 to the present. We've seen change of government successfully done through the normal democratic culture. And I think for a nation, a third world country such as ours, we should be allowed to have our democracy grow. In spite of the shortcomings, in spite of up and downs, in spite of some of the problems attached to democracy, there is a need for us to have, to be given the latitude to make our choices, whether they are right or wrong, and also to correct them. And that is just like a school. It's a learning process where you start learning, and then at the, well, as time goes on, you get to perfection. So let us, to properly contextualize this issue of democracy, we have to look at the government as it is. How have we fared in 23 years? I think we've done well. Look at even the railway system, that this government, from the last government who started to the present, it has done very well. If you look at the network of roads, it has done very well. Even the issue of corruption fighting, although there are some lacunas here and there, although Nigeria has not been able to get it right up to now because of, you see the issue of corruption cropping up here and there. One person's looting about 200 billion. What will that person do with that, for God's sake? So it is a democracy that is toddling. It's a democracy that is still on wheelchairs. But still, I think by what we've been able to see the government do, especially in terms of providing dividend of democracy like roads, network of roads, and looking at social infrastructure, and look at even the government itself, I think we're on the right track, although, as I've stated, let me reiterate again, we are not yet there.
Okay. Now, let me come to you, Aliu. What can you say about Nigeria getting the democratic structure? Are we on the right course?
On this, clearly that we have decided that this is the best form of government. And so I will say, yes, we're on the right track. But it's not just being on the right track, it's that we need to be determined to stay on this track. We're hearing echoes of disenchantment and disillusionment from citizens beginning to feel that a dividend of democracy is not coming to them as a result of a lot of. But it is important that we must keep on this track, because the longer we keep on it, the better we are at it. Because experience is only the best teacher that can give you what you need in terms of skills and competence to run a system. And so, yes, we are on the right track. And yes, we are beginning to develop capacity in terms of what are those democratic skills and competence that we need, holding our leaders accountable, asking the correct questions, and beginning to question authority, call governments to order. These are some of the skills that we need that we can only learn if we're on this track and we keep at it long enough. So yes, the answer to your question is a definite yes, we're on the right track.
Okay. Now, Modibo, let me come to you to still buttress this point. What would you say about the democratic culture in Nigeria? Is it up to standard, or we still have a lot to do?
We're still in the learning process. As I rightly stated, the democratic culture globally, you know, as one of the committees of nation, there is no standard when it comes to measurement of culture. When it comes to democracy and a cultural appreciation, there is no guiding standard. The only thing is, I'll say, is that in a democratic setup, a culture of choice, yeah, we are still moving towards that, because the beauty is it allows you the latitude to make your choice. You see, using any parameter of democratic practice, you agree with me that the issue of choice is of fundamental and highly paramount in our conceptualization of democracy. We have to imbibe the culture of choice, and therefore making the right choice. Whatever it is, have we been able to move from A to B, B to C in terms of choice? I'll say yes. Because if you look at the way we've been having politicians that have started right from 1999, you know, contesting, recontesting, moving from, some people will move from governor to senator, senator to governor. You see, it gives you the latitude to make your choice. But I will think, or I will have appreciated the young men and women be more participatory in terms of democracy. Okay. I think we should have a latitude where we give them the opportunities. Because if you look at a lot of these people that are in running our current democracy, you know, they have been there right from the time of our grandfathers. People like like we, you know, within the brackets of 50s, 60s, and this thing, we've not been able to achieve much in terms of participatory democracy. People that have been there right from 1960, they are still piloting the affairs of this country. And it's a very sad thing. We need to have women. There is no world that moves forward without participation of women and youths. And youth form over 65% to 70% of the voting populace in Nigeria. But what is their participatory percentage? Virtually, they don't have, you know, that latitude. Because one, there is monetization of the polity, and also this consequently, because of monetization, the youth that don't have the wherewithal. Because if you say you are selling a form of 100 million, for God's sake, where would a youth have that kind of money? So there is this, we have this monetization of the polity, and because of the monetization of the polity, it has now become a full preserve of the elites and people that have been able to work in government, that have been able to get monies, and people that, well, it has become, politics have become commercialized in the sense that it's only people that have money that participate. So we should have, even if we close a door, there should be a window of opportunity for the youth and women to participate, so that it will make the democracy tick. We need people of substance. We need people with character, and people that can characterize the political situation of this country so as to move it forward. By doing so, we need the educated elites. Politics is not just, we can't leave politics for people or never do else, or people that have not even gone to school. They don't know the A to B of politics. So people of education, with educational background, sound economic background, looking at the issue of administration, people that have been able to read, to know what is happening in the world of in the globalization. You know, under this globalization and multiculturalism, there is a need for people to look at the issues dispassionately, and also to be able to sit in conformity with the global standards, looking at what is happening on daily basis on softwares and what have you. The era of the old brigades should be over now.
Okay. All right, Aliu, I would like you to react to that before we go on a break. Can you react to his submission?
Yes, I will agree with most of what he said on the when he was answering. But one thing I want us to be very confident about is that this is a learning process for everybody. The process has just begun. 23 years, like I said, is a short time in human evolution. We're just practicing this democracy for the first time, this length of time. And so we're going to have a lot of teething problems. He talked about participation, women and youths. Yes, agreed. It's given that we still have challenge in that aspect where we don't have the largest number of our population participating effectively in the democratic process. But like I said, it's a teething problem. The longer we continue with this democratic experiment, the more we are going to imbibe some of these cultures of where we allow everybody to be able to participate in this process itself. For now, yes, a few persons are beginning to show that they are there from time immemorial. They have been there since the beginning of this experiment. We accept that. But gradually, by the next generation, you begin to see that more of our young people are beginning to understand and believe in the system. Right now, a lot of our young people are sitting on the fence, thinking that probably we'll go back to one day we wake up and we hear fellow Nigerians, the usual way we hear it. But it's not going to be like that if we continue on this process. We're going to get to a point where everybody will begin to believe that, yes, democracy has come to stay. And by then, we have gotten enough skills and more people will be involved in the system.
All right, we'll take a break here and listen to what some Nigerians on the streets are saying as brought to us by our correspondent, Abdul Wahab Suleiman. Take a look.
We benefited a lot of things from democracy, like freedom of speech, especially before. There is no way you can say what is in your mind. Even if you have anything to say, you'll not be able to say it because you will be afraid of what the government might do to you.
God has made it possible for us to see the democracy, but we've not started seeing dividends of democracy. There are difference between seeing democracy and seeing dividends of democracy.
Well, but so far so good. We should thank God that to some extent there's freedom of expression, there's freedom of movement, and you and I can be in the streets, you know, talking, and very soon there's going to be election, and you have the democratic right to come out and vote.
Let there be equity of law. Let everybody be equal before the law. Not that some people will be given preferential treatment while others will be facing, will be dying.
We just want our government to step up so that they can consider the masses, and masses too will benefit from democracy. Democracy is supposed to be a period whereby the citizen will be enjoying those things that we did not enjoy during the military regime.
Welcome back. The program is Nigeria Today, and I'm still in the studio with Ibrahim Modibo and Hamza Aliu on Zoom. Now, Modibo, you heard the views of some of our respondents on the streets. How would you react to that?
Well, I'm really pleased with a lot of answers coming from Nigerians on democracy. You see, the issue of freedom of movement and freedom of speech is very fundamental. One of the most consistent and effective means of communicating your grievances to the powers that be without the fear of being arrested or without the fear of being intimidated is through the democratic tenets or democratic institutions. Now, with democracy, we have the latitude, you know, to criticize government openly and also tell it point blank what it needs to do and what not. And also it gives you that kind of symbiotic relationships between the government and the governed, where the people will have their say. While having their say, they could also have their way. Because by the time you start telling the government that this is what you want, these are some of the shortfalls, these are some of the shortcomings, and these are some positives, the government listens. Because it's the government of the people. If they don't listen, it will come a time when there will be elections. And by the time there will be elections, you'll find out that, look, people vote them out. So they must be in consonance with the yearning aspirations of the people. So therefore, to me, freedom of speech is very fundamental, and this government has been doing very well in trying to see to the freedom of speech and also trying to listen. Because the most important thing after talking, people send messages by way of talking. And this message goes to the government. So the responsibility of the government now to start thinking of solutions to some of this problem. My major challenge here under democracy is that of insecurity and also some of the social infrastructure, especially fuel. If you look at today now, I'm happy with this program now. I'm sure the powers that be might be listening. We're still having problems of fuel queues and what have you. And I must commend this government. Since the coming of this Buhari administration, we've never had problem of fuel that was associated with former governments that we've seen under democracy, where you find even during Christmas you can't travel because there's no fuel. This government has been able to look at it dispassionately and has addressed it. But unfortunately, at the twilight of this government, looking at the issue now, when the government is about to leave in 2023 under President Muhammadu Buhari, we're seeing these fuel queues coming up. I suspect sabotage. I strongly believe that this government has good intentions of trying to see to the yearnings of this issue of fuel being addressed, but they are saboteurs somewhere so as to derail maybe the party or derail the government's achievements in this department. Now, looking at the issue of insecurity, you will agree with me that honestly and sincerely, if you tell me to go to Kaduna today, I think it's only when God calls me to go there. I'll never go. Because if you say you are going by road or you are going by air, it is still problem because of insecurity. You can't travel to Zamfara, you can't travel to Sokoto. We thank God that the army today have been able to nip in the bud the issue of Boko Haram in the northeast. I come from the northeast, and I'm so happy that my state now we're sleeping with our 2 eyes closed. But before it used to be 1.5. Because of insecurity, because anytime, but the government, the military and the government have been able to address that to a large extent, why we've not been seeing the activities boiling up. Okay. But the issue of Zamfara, Sokoto, Kaduna must be looked at dispassionately by way of trying to address it squarely.
Okay, Aliu, how have we managed our diversity, and what are those factors that fuel divisive tendencies?
Well, before I answer the question, my colleague over there talked about how the government has worked in terms of performance in security and especially in security. I just want us to remember one thing, that democracy is not about government; it's about the people. It is how the people feel about something that matters, and not what the government is saying. And so, despite the fact that we could give the government a pass mark in security, we have to accept that the people are beginning to complain about insecurity. And so it hovers on those who I like to call them those we're going to employ, who are politicians, who want to govern us. We have to understand that people are beginning to ask questions in terms of how are we running our security architecture. Now, back to your question in terms of how are we be able to accommodate our diversity. How has it worked to our advantage, or how has it not worked to our advantage, and what are the potentials in it? One good thing about human character is that we always fear what we don't know. Anything different from us, we fear it. And when there is a competition for resources, like in politics, there's always competition. That is where the primordial sentiments of human beings come up. Whether you are, oh, I'm a woman, or I'm a man, or you are white, or you're black, all those issues come up when there's competition. And that is why I said initially that as long as we keep on this track, we are going to get to a point where we understand that our diversity is our strength. That's what makes the food sweet, is that because there's pepper, there's salt, there's Maggi, there's water. It's not because the cook is good at it. No, it's because there has been a harmony of all these different people, men, women, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa. We have come into this pot of soup called Nigeria, and we are working towards making it better. It's only when we keep at this democratic democratic journey, that we get to that point where those differences don't matter anymore. What matters is that we are Nigerians, and that is what is very important when it comes to democracy. As long as we practice a democracy of issue-based leadership selection, it will get to the point where these diversities and these differences only add to our sweetness in terms of who we are as a people. And it's not what we are seeing now, because what we are seeing now is just a symptom of that fact that we're just starting to do democracy in a little step. We're taking baby steps. Okay. And because of that, a lot of these issues are coming up.
Okay, so for want of time, let me quickly ask Modibo my last question. How can we leverage a democracy to improve our lot, just in a minute?
You see, the beauty of democracy is that the voice of people are heard. And also the people have the right to choose, and also have the right to agree or disagree with the government. If we have a government that listens, that's where the beauty of democracy is. And you see, like Hamza has rightly stated, you see, our diversity is our source of strength. There is no country in sub-Saharan Africa, or better still in the world, that has this kind of diversity, and also bringing interconnectivity in terms of culture, in terms of also our ability to agree or to disagree, only to agree. Despite our shortcomings, agreed, as a people we have some shortcomings, shortfalls, but all the same, democracy has been able to give us the latitude to agree to a large extent that, look, so person is aggrieved, there's a need for us to have that common pot of soup to sit down and see to the possibilities of making Nigeria great.
Yes, thank you so much. Ibrahim Modibo, Public Affairs Analyst, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the program.
Thank you.
Also appreciate you for always obliging us.
Thank you, Madam.
I will also thank you, Hamza Aliu, the Executive Director, Initiative for Grassroots Advancement, INGRA, Lokoja, Kogi State. Thank you for sharing your thoughts as well. That's it on Nigeria Today. Thanks for being there, and don't forget Nigeria Today is live weekdays at 7:30 p.m. in the evening. You can also watch this and other episodes at www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I am Lydia Ojijochi. See you next time. Bye-bye.